Welcome to Combative Nerds. I'm IceyEyedGnome, and today we're going to dive into the incredible world of the X-Men. Now, this beloved comic book series has been absolutely thrilling readers since September of 1963, when Marvel Comics released the X-Men #1, written by Stan Lee with art by Jack Kirby. The original members of the X-Men were a group of mutant teenagers, and they were led by a very powerful telepath, the man in the chair, Charles Xavier. Now, the OG X-Men were comprised by none other than Angel, who could fly, just not on Delta. Beast, who is known for his super genius intellect, his simian appearance, and super strength and dexterity and speed and so on. Cyclops, who's known for that ruby red optic blast and his inability to maintain eye contact in a serious conversation. Iceman, which is pretty self-explanatory. And Marvel Girl, later known as Jean Grey, aka the Pheonix, who is a badass. Also, I drew her just like right there. Now, these teenagers were actually students at Xavier School for Gifted Youngsters, located in Westchester, New York. And while Big Daddy Charles did provide an actual educational experience, he also trained them to face a variety of threats. In an interview, when asked about the inspiration for this new group of heroes, Stan Lee was quoted as saying, "I couldn't have everybody bitten by a radioactive spider or exposed to a gamma ray explosion, and I took the cowardly way out. I said to myself, why don't I just say they're mutants? They're born that way. Or maybe it's Maybelline." No, he didn't say that last part. In this very first issue, we get to experience their first conflict against none other than the master of magnetism himself, Magneto. Magneto is a very powerful mutant, and he seeks to control humanity through fear and domination. Now, spoiler alert, this issue ends with Magneto's plot being foiled by our beloved X-Men, and he flies away in a bubble like a bitch. As they often did at the time, the writers of that era incorporated some real-world struggles into the pages of these comics. The mutants and the struggles that they faced were often used as an allegory for the civil rights movement. The series has had its ups and downs, but in 1975, what I would consider to be our hero's darkest hour, in a last-ditch effort to try and revitalize the franchise after a huge decline in both sales and interest, Marvel released Giant Size X-Men #1 by Len Wein and Dave Cockrum. It was a new and exciting story with tons of first appearances by characters we all know and love today, including Colossus, Nightcrawler, and Storm. Fun fact, in 1980, in issue number 100 of Marvel Team Up, a flashback sequence shows a young Storm actually rescuing a young T'Challa from kidnappers. Sometime later in Black Panther #14, the older, now King of Wakanda, proposes to Storm, and some issues later they are married in the midst of the Civil War storyline, which is actually very powerful because on the day of their wedding, everyone decides to lay down arms. Back to the story of Giant Size X-Men #1. We're first introduced to several new mutants who are being recruited to track down the original members of the X-Men team who went missing after they were ambushed while tracking down a very powerful mutant on the remote Pacific Isle of Krakoa. And I probably butchered that. Now, what our new group of superheroes, this ragtag X-Men team, doesn't realize yet is that the island itself is actually a mutant. And as ridiculous as that sounds, it actually really makes for a great story. Now, one of the best parts of the story for me is seeing the interactions between now all 13 X-Men, all crammed inside the Stratojet. The book was a huge success for Marvel, and it's widely considered a grail for many comic book collectors because of its significance. Now, there's no need to rush out and sell your organs to be able to read this issue, as it's available virtually anywhere ebooks are sold. Shortly after the success of Giant Size X-Men #1, Chris Claremont joined the creative team behind the franchise as its primary writer. And together, with the help of a number of very talented artists, over the course of the next 16 years, transformed what had been a commercial failure into one of the most successful and most beloved comic book franchises of all time. Arguably, the most famous X-Men member, didn't join our heroes until 1975. That's right, you know who I'm talking about. The fucking Wolverine. The Wolverine's first cameo appearance was in The Incredible Hulk issue number 180, with what is considered to be his first full appearance taking place in The Incredible Hulk issue 181. And good luck finding that on eBay. Sometime later in the comics, we actually learned that the reason Wolverine joined the X-Men originally was because he had been assigned to kill Professor X, which is something we kind of see come full circle in the movie Logan.
Logan.
Now, while in the vast majority of the popular mainstream X-Men titles, Wolverine seems fairly tame.
Go fuck yourself.
There are a number of one-shots and spin-offs where we get to see his full rage and watch Logan kill nearly everyone, including the X-Men. That's right, in the Wolverine Volume 3, issue number 70, we see flashbacks of Wolverine slaughtering everyone after he's tricked by Mysterio into believing that his friends, his family, are a powerful group of enemies, including Omega Red, Sabretooth, Doc Ock, Green Goblin, Silver Samurai, and a smattering of others. Now, I could do a whole show on the Wolverine, and I may at some point, as he is, without a doubt, my favorite X-Men character. The X-Men and their genetic mutations have created unlimited potential for new and exciting characters and storylines. Its success gave birth to a great number of spin-offs, with more than 13 live-action films, a made-for-television movie, which was complete shit.
From the creators of a hit comic book series, The X-Men, comes Generation X.
Several animated series, video games, and merchandise. Personally, I remember playing that god-awful Uncanny X-Men game for the original Nintendo. And then, of course, there's the tie-dye Wolverine t-shirt my parents let me wear for middle school photos. Thanks a lot, Mom. So what's next for this franchise? Disney has already revealed their plans to release Deadpool 3, which began filming earlier this month in London. It's rumored to have ties to the previous X-Men properties, as well as a glimpse into the future of mutants in the MCU. Coming to Disney Plus later this fall is the highly anticipated X-Men 97, a direct continuation of the 1992 animated series. The story will pick up just months after the final episode of its predecessor, with X-Men and Magneto mourning the loss of our beloved Professor X. I grew up with the original series, and I'm very excited to see how they continue this story. Now, I doubt it's going to have any ties to the actual MCU, but it will be a nice departure from the somewhat complex and often convoluted storylines that the MCU is trying desperately to weave together. There are so many great storylines from this franchise that I would love to cover in detail. Like the House of M, where Scarlet Witch loses her fucking mind, and the Age of Apocolypse. Now, if you would love to hear more about these or any other storylines, please feel free to drop a suggestion in the comment section below. That's all the time I have for today. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.